Crank it up, see what happens. Alright, so new video today. Working on finally getting the digital cluster installed, and I'm out here at what should be one of your favorite spots to get shit when you start doing custom stuff, even regular maintenance or repairing stuff on your body, especially for us that got imports of 2000 and back. All right, the damn Junkyard. Okay, so I'm going to outsource a few harnesses and plugs because I plan on doing something special with this cluster. So that's what we're going to be doing. And what I'm doing is I'm out here getting harnesses and connectors. All right, and the reason I'm doing that is because I want things to look and be connected in a certain way, especially when it comes to my cluster and something that's going to read information, especially in field gauge. So I'm going to be doing some special things here. I already see somebody remove this, which is one of the key components I wanted to see. And now that I see that it's pretty much easily accessible through here, now I know when I take this out, I can access this switch and do what I plan on doing. So I'm gonna get in this car, get some of these things out, then we're gonna get back to the house, get on the workbench and get this cluster installed. All right, what's going on? So we're back. All right, so back here getting ready to get into this car. Already went to the junkyard, as you saw, found a couple of things. Definitely wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. There weren't a lot of Integras out there. There were only 2 Integras out there, but there were a lot of Honda Civics, and I'm talking about things look torn and ravaged through. But anyway, we got a few things that we did need. I think we're going to be okay. So let's go through some of this. All right. So we're putting in the digital cluster that was done by Wireware in the Harsh Times DC build. Got a light set up for you all so you all can hopefully see. First, we're going to go over some of the things that I do have that I'm going to get to first. This install is not going to be like every other install that you've seen thus far on YouTube. I'm doing something a little bit different here that is a little bit different, but takes a few more steps than just what you've already seen people pulling out the cluster and putting in the new cluster and just finding the fuel feed and the power in the ground. We're going to do a little bit more here, but you're going to see why at the end of the video, why we're doing a little bit more. And I think you're going to like what I do here. Okay, so let's go over some of the things that we definitely need to have. And I'm sure along the way, I'll have to pull out other things. All right. So right here, you're definitely going to need your screwdriver, flat and Phillips, just in case, you never know. You definitely need this guy. All right. The stubby. The stubby is going to help you get into the 2 screws that hold the bezel up a lot easier. Then you go to the longer Phillips head to get to the 2 screws on the side of the cluster, and you might find yourself coming back to the stubby to get that 3rd one out. All right. Good set of wire strippers is always something that you need to have, with some cutters down here at the end. Now, these are very important for the steps that I'm doing here. I went out there, found a few connectors and pigtailed them. And now when you pigtail something, try to get as much of the wire out as you can. I like to try to get at least 4 to 5 inches or more. That way I can strip and do what I need. I didn't get that here, but I'm thinking I might not be able to use this. When somebody had already pigtailed it, it was not my job. But this connector I might not be using. I might be sticking along with this one. Now, as you see, these 2 pretty much the same, but this one has 2 leads coming out. This one has 1. I'm gonna find out which one I'm using most. Then I pulled another connector that was connected to the switch that I'm going to be using just in case I need more wire, and I already got a good amount of wire here. Okay, so other things that we need, we got these right here are probe leads, and I have some leads with alligator clips on, which are very pertinent when you come to basically trying to check wires, check ground, check power. You don't want to have to be trying to hold it, so you get a little alligator clip that side, probe the other side, and a good digital multimeter. Yes, it says Radio Shack. I've had it that long. All right. So first thing I'm going to start with, I'm going to go ahead and get this customized one-off steering wheel out of my way. As you see here, it says, yes, that's what it says. So we're going to get this steering wheel out of here so that we'll have a good amount of room to work. Now, this steering wheel, I know he's like, why doesn't he just pull it off? Well, it's because this one doesn't pull off like that. I opted for something different. This steering wheel is actually the tilt version. I like that because when I'm at shows, I can tilt it up. People see it through the front window. And I like it because it's different. It's just not a pull off like everybody else has. All right. But with that being said, I'm going to have to go ahead and pull this wheel off so that I'll have clearance here versus just pushing and detaching. So yeah, you might have, you know, a good luxury there in this situation, but other situations, I think this tilt steering wheel option is the better one. I think it's just, you hardly see them in shows. So if you need one, go to wolfpackperformance.net, pick you up one, all right, NRG. So let's go ahead and get the steering wheel off so we can get to this bezel and start getting to the nitty gritty of what we're gonna be doing here, all right? All right, so we got the steering wheel off. No need to take the rest of this off. I honestly don't even think we need to take this off. We could, but I think we should be able to get this out of here without taking this top collar off. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and get this bezel out. Now this is a dual bezel with the gauges installed, so you need to be very careful that when you take this out, because a shop put this in for me, but just be careful when you're taking those out that you don't pull or disconnect any wires that you're not aware of. If you don't have these, don't worry about it. You just have these 2 bolts, these 2 screws up here, then we'll pry the edges and then pull this bezel out. Okay, so we're gonna take this part off. Now I really don't want to have to take these screws off. I kind of just want to take this top portion off. So in here is like a little retaining clip. If you just kind of pinch and pull, it dislodges, and I'm hoping that, there we go. All right, so I can remove the top piece without having to unscrew this bottom piece and nothing's broken. Now we have the room to go in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take off this panel off, give me a little bit more view up under the dash so I can see what I'm working with, because I just don't want to pull this out right here and then mess something up. So let's give us a little more clearance to work with. So I'm gonna pull that out off. Here, and yes, there are some wires there that are gonna need attention, and those are it for the wideband. As you see me moving those wires, moves that, and they are zip tied, and I have more than enough, so I'm just gonna snip these zip ties and pull that. Here we go. And yeah, that popped out. Now got enough space to go ahead and detach the gauge. We'll put it over there. See what's up with this one. As you will see, I was completely wrong about the oil. So bam, got that off. The bezel is out, that's out. Now it's gonna be time to remove this cluster. I'm not gonna do anything with this one. As you can see, it's a JDM Type R cluster. I'm gonna keep it the way it is, pristine, take it out, put it to the side, put the new digital one in. If anything ever goes wrong, I'll throw this one back in here, but hopefully nothing goes wrong. After we get this cluster out, we're gonna hit a point where we're gonna start deviating and doing a few small things before we start messing with the harnesses. And going into that, we're going to verify a few other things as far as to us doing something different here. So let's get on to this part. All right, so this is where the little stubby snap on, and then the longer one will come in. The longer one, you will get these screws off here to the sides, right there and right there. Probably can't see them because of the glare, but there you go. And then this stubby one will work for this screw right here. So just kind of, there you go, right there. Watch out for that part, and then just keep sliding it out. Manila pieces down, and just keep on coming, and then you'll feel resistance, and that's when it's time for you to get off to the side and start disconnecting connectors. So I think that the speedometer is a Bravo connector. Your tachometer is a Charlie, and the one that goes over here by the temperature is your Delta. So the Delta connector is where you're gonna pull your, if you can see me, your Delta connector is where you're gonna pull your ground from. Your tachometer, pretty much we're not pulling anything from there, but I believe the the Bravo is the one we're going to actually get the fuel feed from. So we're doing something different as far as what we're going to pull positive and what we're going to do with negative. So we'll get into that later. So now just all right, so I'm looking for a yellow and white. Now they say yellow and white, but technically to me it looks like a silver. So I'm looking for a yellow and silver or white, basically as the fuel feed. And then I'm looking for a black on ground. So it said that on Delta I should find a black, and there's a black for ground. Right there, black for ground. And then there is no yellow and white here. So I'm believing we should find that here. And I think this is what they're talking about when they say yellow and white, is this one right here. So I believe that's our fuel feed, because this other one is more like a white and green. So I'm believing that this one is our fuel feed. So we're gonna end up tapping into this for fuel feed. We'll use this one for the ground because there's not a ground on this one, I don't believe. So we'll use this one for the ground. And then this one just doesn't matter. It's SRS, I believe, so we're not worried about that. And we're gonna get into some of this other stuff. Now it's time to get into the fun stuff, all right? So let's hold tight for that. I'm about to get the multimeter and we're about to start ohming some things out to check where we're gonna have our connection points. All right, so now it's time to depin this connector, which I have never done, so bear with me. We might have some trial and error, but I have a depinning tool, which I always have, and I have a nice good pick, and let's go for it. All right, so I'm gonna push that white tab there, then get this out of here, and also that white tab, and then slide this back piece out. Then I should be able to unlock these pins from the front. Once you get these two pieces off, then you'll slide the pick in that bottom hole, push it in fairly large until it kind of stops, then just pull this out from the back, and then now you have your pins separated from that connector right there. We'll do the same thing with the ground right here, which is Delta 6, D6. That ground pin, we'll get that off, and then we'll have the two pins that we need from the harness, and then we'll find our power. All right, actually what I've decided to do before I pull that one, which there was really no way for me to check this besides researching diagrams and seeing what that is, I'm gonna make sure this is ground, and I'm gonna check it with the multimeter. So I'll set the multimeter to basically, I'll set it to tone on ohms, and that way what happens when you do that is once it finds itself, you'll hear that tone letting you know you got a connection or open. So we'll use the alligator clip to go ahead and put this on the ground, then I'll come back up here and pin that one and see if it's a real ground. To a chassis ground. There's a couple different grounds, chassis ground, other ground. So I'm just gonna find a chassis ground here. So I'll go in right there, and then let's, bam. So that is a ground. You hear the tone, that's a ground. All right, so you see it right there. Listen for that tone. That's ground. So I do know that that is ground. So we're gonna go ahead and pull that one. All right, so now I'm gonna look for a constant power. Right now I see one of the slots that I'm using. If you see that blue terminal connector right above that purple plug that's in the fuse box next to that 10, the two to the left of it are supposed to be constants. The first one over from that terminal actually runs through the fuse box with the fuse. I believe it's number 17 with that 7.5 in it. And then the one furthest to the left, you'll have to use an inline fuse if you use that one. So now we're gonna actually put the meter on those and see if we can find out if it's true that they are constant, and if not, if one's alive and one's not. And now I'll take this probe and put it on that slot and see what it reads. And I got jack squat. And oh, that's why I got jack squat, because the damn battery's not connected. Oh, you good, man. All right, so let's get the keys, get this trunk open, and actually connect the battery. You need a battery for power. Let's go ahead and connect these up. Positive on first, and ground. And let's see if we get that power source now. Let's take these keys out of here, put them over here. All right, let's see if we get that power source now. All right, so there you can see the multimeter better like that. All right, so I already got my ground up there. Now let's test these areas that I want to use. See if they have a power source. Okay, this one, yep, 12 volts. And this one is, I got nothing there. So now remember what I said, supposedly this one right here actually is a fuse that runs through here. This one is a constant regardless, and we have to put a fuse in line. So I really want to see if I can find out where this one runs through, and if I can, I'll plug a fuse in it, or maybe see if this fuse is actually burnt, and maybe that might be the problem. So I'm gonna check this troubleshooting real quick, see if that number 17, because supposedly number 17 is the fuse that's supposed to go to that 1 second from the left. And if it's not, if it's right now, it's not reading anything. So let me check that fuse. If that fuse is burnt, then I'll just replace the 7.5 fuse as long as it doesn't pop again. And I'll use that spot to go ahead and bring in my power. All right, so I couldn't find out where the other constant went in order to get it powered up. So we're gonna use the constant that basically is running right now. So supposedly the cluster it draws 3 amps, okay? So I found a couple of options in my good trusty electronics drawer, wiring and all types of shit in there. And we're gonna go ahead and look at some of these options, all right? So first thing I got is the multimeter powered up, and it's on for continuity. Now I found this one would have been a very good option, but it's only 0.5 amps, so that's not gonna be enough. So I found this one. It's not a bad option, a little less streamlined because of the bulkiness up top, but this is a 15 amp fuse. So I'm hoping that basically this smaller Honda fuse will fit in here. All right, and it does, but now I have to make sure it has continuity. So let's check that. And we're good, all right? So we got continuity. So we're gonna go ahead and run with this one. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take some heat shrink and cover this up because I don't need 2 ends off this one. So I'll cover this one up. Then I'll go ahead and get ready to do some soldering to run that power up top, and then I'll go ahead and cap it off so that we can finish up the rest of the stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead, run this power. Now what I'm gonna do with this is, I'm gonna run this off of the fuse box, but I'm gonna utilize one of these connectors. So it'll be basically plug and play. That's the cool thing about this. Everything will be plug and play down there. So if need be, I could just unplug it, do what I need to do. I'm not really like breaking into any more wires down there below, and I'll run that wire up, and then I'll go ahead and actually solder the connections on the cluster. I don't want to use any like connector butt splices because I don't want anything to be intermittent. I want as less breaks as possible in the circuitry. So the only breaks you're gonna have is this plug, the fuse, which is a break in itself, it's a control break, and then that's it. Everything else on my end will be soldered, solid connection, so we shouldn't have any issues. We will test all connections beforehand to make sure all the leads do what they're supposed to do, except for fuel. I'm just kind of gonna have to shoot with that one, but we'll power the cluster up and actually see if it reads before we fully install it, of course, and go from there. All right, so check this out. I'm not gonna use that small fuse. This one right here, I actually had the wife go and she picked up some 5 amp fuses. So we got 5 amp, the right size that actually will go in there. And I got my heat shrink. So now we're about to go ahead, start creating this partial harness out of this connector and this inline fuse. I'm gonna go ahead and seal this side off with a little heat shrink so it doesn't make contact with anything. Then I'm gonna get these solder up. Then I'm gonna find out how much wire I need to make it up here comfortably with enough to tuck, no strain on the cluster, and run it down there to where I'm gonna do it. And then that's it. So then we'll go ahead and run that power wire. I will cap it in. Well, I really won't need to cap it. I'll just leave it unplugged. But first we will plug it up, test to make sure we have power through the fuse doesn't pop, letting me know at least everything in that part of the harness is gonna be good. Then we'll move on to adapting and splicing into the connectors that we pulled out of these. So remember, we have the ground from here and the fuel feed from there that we still will go ahead and add wires to in order to connect to the digital cluster. then there's another part that we got to get to in here. Like I told you, this is not the typical install. Once you see this, you really might want to do it depending on what your needs are. So let's get to soldering this stuff up. All right, so I got my wires pretty much the way I want them. Nice little coil over, that way to be smooth. I got my heat shrink right here to pull over. Don't forget to put that heat shrink on first, so you'll solder these up and then you'll find yourself doing electrical tape because you won't want to desolder them. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead, got the soldering iron, nice and hot, clean the tip, go ahead there. Then what I will do first is tint the tip with a little solder, make sure it's gonna melt all sides, and then I'll go ahead and start placing the solder on the wires. And what you want to do is you put a little solder on the tip, but once you see it start taking in the wires, that tells you that the wires are getting hot enough to draw the solder in. There it is. Come on back down this way and go ahead and finish it off like that. And there we go. And boom, that's what you want. All right, so now we know we'll have good power, good connection, no break. Now I'll just put my solder over here and use the old trick. There we go. There we go. Heat shrink covered, connections covered, good. Good connection right there. Now let's set the multimeter up. If everything is good, we should see 12 volts up there. And there we go, 12.6 volts. So our power wire is good. Our fuse has not popped. If everything is correct with the cluster, that it only needs 3 amps, cool. If not, it's no thing for me to get a 7.5, pop it in there, or a 10, pop it in there, we'll be good, all right? So now that I know that's good, I'm gonna unplug that harness, and that's the beautiful thing about using and going to the junkyard, getting these connectors. Unplug it, and now I can go ahead and get to the rest of this stuff. Let's put some extra wire on here to bring this out further. That way the cluster can be a little further out when I start messing with it. Then I'll have enough to tuck back in there and we should be good. So we're getting closer. We're getting closer. Okay, so I've ran this wire, power wire. All right, and what I got it is right here. And if you see, it's plugged in right there. All right, so I pulled enough so that if I need to change the fuse, I can pull it down, change it. I'm gonna leave that much loop in there. That way I can zip tie it up there. And then I want about this much coming right here so that I can mess with the cluster and won't be so tight up in there, and then I can shove the rest of it. So all the wire that I'm going to do next, the fuel wire, the ground wire, are going to come out about this far so that I'm not bunched up messing with that cluster, and I can have this plus what the cluster has, and I can just find a way to tuck it back in there nicely, and then it won't be an issue. All right, and now it's going to be time to work on the ground. Now this is the part that is going to be different from everybody else's install, and it's going to take a little bit, but I think it's going to be worth it. So I'm going to get ready to clip this, get the ground system ready, and then we'll bring you in and start showing you what I'm doing on the ground. All right, so cruise control switch is out. If you want to know how, this is on the bottom side, this notch right here is on the top side. You'll reach in from back here, pressing down on this one first, then you'll reach your finger around and kind of cradle this one and push it this way, and then just slightly pull it out. Okay, so here what we have now. This car does not have cruise control. One reason why you should know that is because the aftermarket steering wheel does not have the buttons on it to set, excel, all that etc. bullshit. The other thing is the engine bay is pretty much cleaned out. All right, not as clean as some, but pretty clean. If you go on Instagram and look, you'll see that. We don't have the cruise control modular, okay? But the dimmer switch and the switch for the interior do work, so we do want to keep that, okay? Not that it's a big deal, but I mean, if the more functioning OEM stuff you can have in your interior is kind of like a good feeling. So let's get here. Now these 3 wires right here are power, ground for dimmer, okay? These 2 I believe, go ahead and pass over the signal for the cruise control to be activated. So that we don't have cruise control. So what I'm going to do is strip this as far back as I can in here and pull these wires. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip them, and I'm going to mate that with the ground in this initial cluster right here, right there. And then I'm going to use the wire I have to bring the ground from the switch to the actual digital cluster. All right, that's what the plan is. And I'm not going to tell you if you don't know why that's going to be. You should. If you do know, awesome on you. Keep watching. You're going to see how it turns out. If you don't know, keep watching. I'm going to show you how to do what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And at the end, you're probably going to like it a lot. So now I'm going to get to work on getting these wires freed out as much distance as I can far back with this. I hate this type of sheathing they use. It sucks ass. It adheres to the wire so good it's ugly. I'm going to pull it out, going to splice it, going to make my connections, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to test to make sure we have a good ground. If it messes up, I really don't care at the end because I don't have cruise control. All right, so here we go. I got the cruise control switch put back in. I have the wires stripped for right here for right now, and I have the elite probes attached to the multimeter. So what we are looking for, if I am correct about these two wires, that they are open and closed circuit for the cruise control of some sort and not power. When I hit this switch, you should see this circuit indicate closed and hear a tone letting you know that the circuit is closed. So here it goes. And boom, the circuit is closed. That's good. We got low resistance. So I think that's a good source for ground. And there it is. Again, open. Boom. So now that I know that's good, I'm gonna go ahead, finish up the, I don't know why, I'm horrible. I should look at the camera first before I start talking to make sure you're looking at me. My bad. I'm gonna make sure, run these wires, go ahead, get them soldered in, heat shrink, covered, get this harness straight, tape it up a little bit, put it back in its place, put the cruise control switch just hanging loose. I don't want to fully put it in yet until I'm sure everything's going to work. Then we'll button everything up. All right, so for right now, I'm going to go ahead and run this ground wire system. Then we'll attend to the fuel signal wires. All right, so here you go right here. Fuel wire. What we think to know is the fuel, which is Bravo 1 off the B connector. Our power constant right here. And our ground right here. To get this thing out the cluster, so we handle that with care. And there it is. All right, so we're gonna put that thing right up here. So it's time to get this thing in. There are 3 wires right there that we're concerned with. Giving yourself enough length to come out here and play with the cluster. So now I can basically go ahead and kind of temporarily put it together right here, and I can actually work with it out here and then set it up. So I'm just gonna temporarily make these wires up real quick, and then what I'll do is put some electrical tape on them temporarily. Of course, I might not even do that because I don't want that to mess with the solder. So I just twist them real good. Now the power, I will take that opportunity and actually put some electrical tape around that because I don't want power to touch anything and ground out and short this out. Make sure no strings or no wire end loose ends fall down into the cluster. You don't want to risk shorting anything out that way. And we'll put this power together and take some electrical tape, just a little bit, just to cover it up. I could use a wire lock nut, but I'm just gonna do this for right now. Cover it up like that so it doesn't ground out. Let's just take it, make sure we have the power in the front, that way we can see it and we know which way those leads are positioned. And we'll just sit the cluster up here like this. All right, so the cluster's just sitting up here like this for right now. Now let's go to the back and put the battery on. Make sure everything up under there is good. And let's put the battery on, power up the car. Hopefully nothing shorts out. Go ahead and cut that ground. All right. So right now, I didn't hear anything pop. So what that means is at least the fuse didn't pop. And right about now, this is kind of like, so we're gonna see if this thing actually powers up from here, and I hope so. So let's go. Right now we don't have any power, so let's see what we get. There we go. We got a power up. There is the boot up screen. There is my fuel gauge. Right now fuel says that I don't know if that's accurate fuel reading, so let's see if that kind of goes down some, but it is reading something. How accurate that is, I don't know. So we might have to hit him up on that, because I don't know if it's at that. I think I had less than about a quarter of a tank of fuel, so we'll need to make sure that that is actually the fuel lead. It doesn't say full, so that could mean it is. There's the harsh times DC. All right, so right now that we know we have a good power up, only thing I'm concerned with right now is the fuel level reading being at almost full when the other cluster probably still has the old reading on it. Let's see. Yeah, this was the reading on the old cluster, about less than a quarter of a tank. So I don't know about that reading being accurate, so I'm a little concerned about that. But it's still good. Right now, we will go ahead and disconnect that. I'll hit wire wear up in between to make sure that we do have the right fuel lead. And other than that, we're gonna get ready to start buttoning some of this stuff up, but we can't button it up too far because we need to make sure that that's actually fuel level. I could disconnect it and see what happens, and maybe the car might have to settle, but we'll see from there. So let's just keep moving. Okay, so quick note, just got off the phone with Anthony at Wireware. There is a dial type potentiometer setting at the back of the fuel gauge. If you did opt for the digital fuel gauge, this is definitely for you. If you use your OEM fuel gauge, you don't need to know this. You can just skip ahead some seconds and go on. But there is a setting that's in here, and there's an arrow. And Anthony says that the company that makes this fuel gauge says that that arrow should be set on 6 for these type of Hondas and or Acuras. So if you hook your fuel gauge up and it reads higher than that, try that. So I'm gonna try it. We're gonna reinstall temporarily, power back up, and see what the fuel gauge reads. Now, we know that my other fuel gauge, this was the reading, and I know that that's accurate based off filling it up and driving it and how much gas it takes to fill when it gets to half or a quarter. So I know this was accurate. So we want to see a fuel setting somewhere around there. Although it kind of doesn't matter as much to me as some of you others it may matter to, because I don't drive this car every day. Most of the time I'm going to put on a trailer, take it to a show, or drive it around the streets and just be zooming up and down. So I know if I go put $5 in it, I'm good. I'm not gonna drive this car in and out of state at this point in time. So I'm not gonna make a big deal about it, but I do wanna see if this fixes our problem. If so, then you know, if you run into this problem, what to do. I'm just gonna wonder if I disconnect this, what we'll get on a reading then. So I'm just gonna pull that wire off and see what we get. Just curious. Making sure that we actually do have a fuel lead here. And yeah, that is the fuel signal. I just disconnected that, and that's what happened. So it looks like the so I'm gonna go ahead myself. We don't need to keep doing this back and forth. I'm gonna get this set till I see about a quarter of a tank, and then I'm gonna leave it there. Evidently it looks like going from 4 is higher, going back to 6 less. So I'm gonna keep going back on the dial until I get close to a quarter of a tank. All right, so I got the cluster turned up like this. Run your wires over the top. That way when you flip the cluster like that, they'll be behind there and you can go ahead and start tucking it in. So I'm gonna go ahead and start soldering up the fuel level sensor. So soldering is complete on fuel, power, ground. Now we're gonna put the heat shrink over. There we go. Heat shrink, good connections with good solder. Heat shrink to keep them all protected. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to get this cluster turned around, fit it in there, tuck everything. All right, got the cluster in, looking pretty good so far. I mean, even without everything put together, it's looking good the way it's sitting in there. So right now we're gonna go ahead, power up the battery, run another power up test, make sure everything cuts on, nothing's glitching. And then after that, we're good. I noticed that here, you can't probably see, but they use zip ties here to get everything together. So when you're putting the cluster back in, if it doesn't quite butt up on those nipple alignment nipples, just make sure that the bulky head of the zip tie is around the front side instead of the back side. That'll run you into clearance issues. So let's go ahead, put the negative on. And yeah, I got this battery. Technically, that's my battery. Optima batteries right now are not in my good graces. Just gonna let you know that shit. So now we have power on. Let's see if the cluster powers up after it's been installed. And there we go. We got power up, so we're good there. All right, so I'm loving that. That's looking good. Now it's time to put the bezel in, get some of this other stuff tightened up. And after I put the bezel in, I'm still going to go and basically run another power up test after putting the bezel and the gauges in, because we got 2 AM digital gauges there for fuel pressure and air ratio monitoring. So I want to make sure once I get that in, everything still is lighting up, is powering up right. Then after that, we're really going to button it up and turn the car on. Then we still gonna have to sync the ECU to the computer. Anthony said give him a call for that. I might try to do it myself and see, but I'll probably go ahead and give him a call if I run into any issues that I really can't find myself out of. So let's go ahead and get this stuff buttoned up. We're almost at the end, and I'm gonna show you some other things that are going on here. Things good. There we go. Make sure the O2 sensor is going to go through its full cycle of heating up the element. The screen's booting up. We have oil pressure 0, as we should. Gas is reading. So I found a chart for this gauge that basically for that selector, what your selector should be. I know Anthony said to go for 6, but 6, according to the manual, was for like 2001 and present. And then it had another reader for a different ohmage. So I went ahead and went with 9. Like I said, it's not a big concern to me because I'm not driving this car daily to like go to work or anything like that. So to me, it really is not a big deal. But to you, it might be a big deal. So you might want to like really find out what yours is supposed to be. So in the description, I'm gonna put the link to the PDF file from, I think this is Power Sports or Pro Sports gauges, so that you can look at that and decide what yours is if you run into that problem. I'm also might put the link to a couple of other things, but right now we got good power up on all the gauges. I'm gonna get the bezel buttoned up. I'm gonna button up all this other stuff, get the steering wheel put on, and then we're gonna do a start test. And we'll do the start test after we link up to the Honda S300 V3. I'm gonna show you something. When I'm at shows, I want this to be displaying. I want this to be on, or people won't see it. The interior is black, it'll soak in. Somebody might notice there aren't any real needle gauges there, but then again, somebody might not. So the cool thing about this is this. I went ahead, wired in straight power, okay? But what I also did is that now there are no keys in there. You can see there are no keys in there at all, no keys. The actual keys are right here. I wired in my cruise control switch so that when I hit it, boom, the unit powers up. There you go. Now I can have the unit on at a show without the car being an accessory and everything else draining the battery. The unit really only pulls 3 amps, so the car should be fine with that. If not, I can put a spare battery in the back and hook that one in before the show and have it run off that. Cruise control goes off, nothing else is on. All right. So other good thing is, let's go ahead, get the car powered on, get the ECU powered on, all the gauges, cruise control. Now you do have to remember to hit cruise control and turn it off, but majority of the time the car is stored with me, the battery's not even connected, so it's really not a big deal to me. All right, I do have a stylus. I heard this is Android technology. I got a stylus. I'm going to attempt to connect the ECU without calling WireWare Anthony over there, without bothering him. If I can't, we'll give him a call, put him on speakerphone, see how to get this thing hooked up. Right now, as you see, got boot up for everything. Air fuel is ready. Oil pressure is reading 0 like it should. So we're just waiting now for this to come up. Now give it some time to boot up. There's the car's name, Harsh Times DC. All right. And after that, we should get the main screen. I don't know if it's going to be the demo screen or real main screen, but we'll see here soon. Now this is the thing, give this thing some time to power up. It is booting up. All right, it's not like boom, it cuts right on. Okay, so there it is. We're in neutral supposedly. I wonder what will happen if I hit the gear shift. Nothing. Okay, and I think that's because we're not connected to the ECU. So from what I've seen, we can go up here, drag down. It's a touch screen. Touch the top, boom. Go to garage. Actually, this damn stylus might not even work. So I'm gonna have to get another type of stylus to see if that works, because I really don't want to put my fingers all over the screen. So we'll put that back in this. Boom. I got this stylus with the soft tip on it, which is what I'll use. So let's see if that works. Boom, it does work. So garage comes up. You're gonna get a card that comes in. I don't know what color yours is gonna be. There it is. You can later adjust. There in settings. Okay, boom, hit okay. Move the car around, open up the door. There's a cluster right there. If you can see it, tap the cluster, it's telling me. Now it says connect and add. So let's go to add and see if it picks up. Now I know my phone usually picks up the HON data. So let's see what's on here. Acoustic. Let's see if we're looking for like Bluetooth, what? Let's see, ECU, HON data. So there's a HON data. Let's select HON data and see what happens. Let's say Bluetooth, see what happens. All right, so I'm trying to just wing this myself. Just go through it by using common sense from playing with phones and everything else. So I know that the HON data ECU 300 is Bluetooth, but I don't know if it's actually gonna connect this way. So I might actually end up calling Anthony, but let's just see, let's just go for it and see what happens right now. Okay. Yep. All right, so door, now it says tap the instrument to set connections. Yep. All right. Add connections. Yes, sir. All right. Scroll and look for HON data. All right, hit the arrow, Bluetooth, arrow. Now, do I need to type the gear or just wait? Tap the gear. All right, tap the gear. All right, so now it's looking for devices. It's still looking. Pair new device. All right. Available, there's the S300. Oh, it looks a little different this time though. All right, so what passcode you want to try this time? Oh, it did. Now it says usually 000 or 1234.
Yep, 1234.
You want to try 1234?
Yes, sir.
2, 3, 4. All right, now the OK is highlighted. All right, now it automatically went back. S300 is still there. Nah, now it changed from the Bluetooth to a computer icon. A paired device, and it's not. So I'm gonna call my tuner and see if they actually put a Bluetooth code in here, which would suck if they did, but they tuned it, so maybe Eric did put a code in there for the Bluetooth. So I'm gonna hit him up real quick. You know, one of the codes is gonna give you options to tell you what it probably is, so we'll just go from there. Hey, what's going on, bro? So man, I rebooted everything, the ECU too, and now it's on currently connected devices. S300 is at the top.
Okay. Now go back out so you get to that blue screen with the sprocket.
All right, I'm back there, and it's on that list.
Click it, and then hit the check mark in the top.
All right. So I clicked it and then hit check mark. Now it says on connections, it says Honda Bluetooth S300.
Now click the back button so you get back to the gauges.
The back button. What's the back? Oh, I see it. All right. It's connecting S300. Now I'm back at the gauges. So now I actually see some numbers at the bottom. Let me see if the gear shift works.
No, it won't work unless you're driving.
Okay.
You see the battery voltage?
Battery voltage. Nope, says 0. Crank it up, see what happens. We got RPM. We got battery voltage at 13.9, 14, what it should be.
You got GPS?
Do I have GPS?
GPS.
Let me see. No, I just got it. TPS, yeah, I got TPS. It's flaking between 0 and 1, which should be about right because it's closed. All right, so that is how you put in the WireWare digital cluster, especially if you want to have it on when your car's off and you're at the show. All right, so more than likely, like I said, I'll hook up a power bank. I'll find the female for that just in case, so I'll disconnect it from the fuse box, hook it up to a power bank, ground it, and then boom, I'll have power to my cluster using the cruise control switch. Right now we pretty much discovered we got it to link up. It was reading everything, then it dropped out. I do not believe it's the WireWare unit right now. It could possibly be, but I don't think it to be. I think it is something with the Honda S300 as far as connectability. They've had major success with the K Pro and the K series. The B series seems to be being a bitch right now at the moment. Not so much the motor, but just the platform itself. That's the only thing we could come up with is the K Pro and the S300 for the B series. So the S300 might be doing something to where it's dropping out. You see right there, it says connecting, but it's not connecting, and then it does connect and it drops out. But other than that, I'm still happy with what's going on. Hope you all enjoyed the video. I know it's a little bit lengthy, but I tried my best to show you step-by-step instructions on how to do this probably closer to the right way, instead of a lot of twisting and electrical tape, and definitely with bringing in the cruise control switch if you don't have cruise control in your car, which I don't, or utilizing another switch in here that you might not be, like the rear defrost or something like that. You could use that switch even. But yo, I'm out. We're gonna come back with another video with the drive test. Anthony is gonna get with Honda and find out what's up with the connectability. Honda might shed some light on that. Other than that, I'm satisfied with the unit. Like I said, hope you all enjoyed the video. I'm out. Shit, I'm about to go eat and then go to sleep.